Grinding for hours just to beat a boss? Yeah, no thanks. If you love Final Fantasy but hate spending your life farming EXP, you're in luck. Today, we're counting down 8 Final Fantasy games where grinding exists, but it's kept to a minimum. You'll spend more time enjoying the story and less time stuck in repetitive battles. If that sounds like your kind of game, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on more rankings like this. Starting off the list is Final Fantasy IV. Compared to the earlier games in the series, it's way more forgiving with grinding. You'll still need to fight your share of battles, but the leveling curve is smooth, especially if you're playing the SNES or PSP versions. These versions hand out EXP pretty generously, so even if you lose a fight, a couple of battles will get you back on track. Now, if you pick up the DS version, it's a different story. Enemies hit harder, and bosses are less forgiving, which means you might need to grind a little more. But overall, Final Fantasy IV keeps the grind light, letting you focus on the story without hitting constant roadblocks. Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII. Now, Dirge of Cerberus isn't your typical Final Fantasy game. It's more of an action shooter with RPG elements sprinkled in. Because of that, grinding is barely part of the experience. Sure, you can farm enemies to upgrade Vincent's weapons, but the game doesn't force you to. As long as you're clearing missions and picking up items along the way, you'll stay strong enough to handle whatever comes next. The focus is on fast-paced combat, not stat management, making it a great pick if you prefer action over endless battles. 6. Final Fantasy XIII. Say what you want about Final Fantasy XIII being linear, but that's actually a good thing when it comes to grinding. The game is designed so that as you move through its story, your party levels up naturally. You're constantly in battles anyway, and those fights give just enough EXP to keep you prepared for what's next. The only time you might feel the need to grind is around Chapter 11, when the game suddenly opens up. But even then, a little extra battling on Grand Pulse is enough to catch up. After that, it's back to story-driven progress without the grind-heavy detours. Next up is Final Fantasy X, where the game's structure keeps grinding to a minimum. Battles are frequent, but they're built right into the story's pacing, so you're always gaining EXP without thinking about it. The sphere grid system also helps because as long as you stick to each character's intended path, you'll stay strong enough for most challenges. Now, if you decide to experiment too much, like moving characters into roles they're not designed for, you might need to grind a bit to make up for it. But for a regular playthrough, just fight what's in front of you and you'll be fine. With Final Fantasy VII Remake, grinding feels almost optional. The game's fast-paced combat keeps things engaging, and you get enough EXP from story missions and side quests to stay ahead. Even tougher boss fights don't require you to stop and farm levels. You just need to adjust your strategy. If you're going for 100% completion, sure, you'll need to put in extra time. But for most players, just playing through the story and tackling side quests as they come up is more than enough to avoid hitting any major grind walls. Grinding in Final Fantasy VIII, totally different from what you'd expect. Enemies actually level up with you, so farming EXP doesn't give you the usual advantage. In fact, grinding too much can make bosses harder because their stats scale with yours. Instead, the game pushes you to focus on smart strategies using the junction system, which lets you boost stats with magic instead of relying solely on levels. You might spend some time drawing spells, but even that's more about preparation than pure grinding. It's a refreshing change if you're tired of the traditional fight, level up, repeat formula. In Final Fantasy XV, the focus isn't on grinding, it's on exploring the open world with Noctis and the crew. The game's EXP system is pretty forgiving because you earn points from just about everything: battles, side quests, even cooking meals. The trick is that you don't level up automatically. You have to camp or stay at inns to bank your EXP. This means you can stack up tons of points just by playing naturally, without having to farm specific enemies. If you're clearing side quests as you go, you'll rarely feel underleveled, making grinding more of a choice than a necessity. Taking the top spot is Final Fantasy XVI, the game with the least grinding required in the entire series. It shifts heavily into action RPG territory, with Clive being a powerhouse right from the start. You'll gain EXP steadily through story missions and side quests, and the combat is designed to reward skill over stats. Even if you skip side content, the game's difficulty adjusts well enough that you won't hit a brick wall. Sure, doing extra quests helps you stay ahead, but it never feels like mandatory grinding. If you just want to jump in, enjoy epic battles, and not worry about EXP bars, this is the game for you. So if you're tired of RPGs turning into grind fests, these Final Fantasy games keep the focus where it should be: on the adventure, the characters, and the epic moments. Which one's your favorite? Or did we miss one that deserves a spot? Drop a comment below, and while you're here, smash that like button and subscribe for more gaming rankings just like this. See you in the next video.